Greetings, folks. Welcome to the National EMS Academy's online EMT lesson on the muscular system. In this lesson, we're going to review how muscles work, and we're going to talk about the three types of muscle tissues found in our bodies. Alright, now I'd be willing to bet that when you think about muscles, movement is one of the things that you consider. And that's a pretty good place to start because muscle work allows us to move. Things like walk, drive an ambulance, or dance down at the Fado. Now, if you're not from Louisiana, just ask somebody and they'll tell you what a Fado is. But anyway, how do muscles allow movement? Well, it's all about contraction. Muscles contract, or in simple terms, they get shorter. This is a function of the protein fibers found in the muscle tissue. Now I'm drawing a very simple diagram to demonstrate to you how these protein fibers work. Notice that they're laid out lengthwise and there's a small overlap among the various layers. Now when an electrical stimulus from the nervous system reaches the muscle, it causes calcium stored in the muscle cell to be released into these fibers. The chemical interaction of the calcium and the protein causes the fibers then to slide inward. Ultimately, you will see that the overlap has increased dramatically and the overall structure is shorter. This is muscle contraction on a microscopic level. Now, when that electrical stimulus is removed, the calcium is pumped back into its storage containers and the fibers slide back to their original location and the muscle returns to its normal length. Well, alright, all that microscopic stuff is fine, but show me the big picture. Well, here you go. Let's look at the upper arm. When the bicep muscle is stimulated, those protein fibers that make up the muscle do their thing and the entire muscle shortens. This results in flexion of the elbow joint and the lower arm moves upward. Now here's something kind of interesting. When the bicep relaxes, it has no strength. That means it can't push the arm back down. To accomplish that, we have another muscle, the tricep. The tricep will contract and it pulls the arm back down or extends the arm. We call this interaction between muscles antagonism. And movement of muscle groups in our body typically work in this fashion. We normally think of antagonism in a negative term, right? Like when my wife antagonizes me. But here it's a good thing. They work together to allow movement in each direction. Alright, now what I have on this slide are the three different types of muscle tissue we find in our body. I've laid them out here side by side and I'd like you to look at them and notice the similarities and the differences. On the left here we have skeletal muscle. Notice how its cells are arranged in long parallel rows. In the center is smooth muscle. Notice that smooth muscle looks much different than the other two types here. Over here on the right, we have a very special muscle found only in the heart, cardiac muscle. And notice that it seems to have characteristics of both skeletal and smooth muscle. Now let's look at each type in a little more detail. We'll start with skeletal muscle. Skeletal muscle is also called voluntary muscle because we have voluntary control over it. It makes up most of the muscles in our body and allows us the movement that we discussed earlier. Two things to note here. First, again, see how those cells are all lined up? That means that when the muscles contract, all of those fibers are going to pull in the same direction. This improves strength. Think of it as teamwork. Second, see those little bands? Those little bands are called striations. Skeletal muscle is also sometimes called striated muscle. These striations are the overlapping protein fibers we discussed earlier. There's a lot of protein in skeletal muscle, again to increase its strength. Next, we'll look at smooth muscle, also known as involuntary muscle, since we have no direct control over this one. That's actually a good thing. Smooth muscle is found in our blood vessels, digestive organs, and other stuff inside us that kind of works automatically. That's a good thing because we don't have to worry about forgetting to do something important, like digest our lunch. Notice the appearance of the muscle cells. They have different size cells, they're laid out kind of haphazardly. It also has less protein, so we can't see the striations in it. But all that's okay, because smooth muscle doesn't have to be as strong or resilient as skeletal muscle. A couple of examples in terms of smooth muscle function. First, we're going to look at the cross-section of a blood vessel. Smooth muscle is commonly found in blood vessels, especially arteries. And when the muscle is stimulated, the contraction pulls the walls inward, resulting in what we call vasoconstriction. This is how our nervous system can raise our blood pressure when necessary. We also find smooth muscle in the walls of our digestive tract. So imagine this is the digestive tract. In this case, the muscles contract in one section only, and when they do so, they push the food bolus on down the line. Then the next segment contracts and pushes it on further. This special muscle action is called peristalsis, and we'll talk a little more about that when we do the digestive system class. All right, finally we have our cardiac muscle. Notice that it looks a lot like skeletal muscle. See the striations? But the fibers are also laid out less organized, so it looks kind of like smooth muscle too. This physical makeup actually improves the pumping action of the heart. Now, cardiac muscle has a couple of pretty cool characteristics. The first is, see how the cells branch and merge into one another? Well, at each of the junctions where these cells merge, there's a structure called an intercalated disc. These branches and the discs help to rapidly stimulate all of the cells simultaneously. In other words, if an electrical stimulus reaches this top cell here, the current will quickly move through all other cells in the area due to these discs and the branching. And this allows the heart to beat uniformly. Okay, that is, all of the cells contract at the same time. Another unique feature of cardiac muscle is its characteristic of automaticity. Automaticity means that the muscle does not require constant nervous stimulation. It actually has the ability to initiate its own stimulus to contract. It works like this. The nervous system sends a signal that sets the heart's rate. Let's say this impulse comes down, touches the heart, and it tells the heart to beat 60 times a minute. Thereafter, the heart will contract once every second without the need of repeated electrical signals from the central nervous system. All right? It's a little later, and you increase your physical activity, and your body needs more blood flow. Your central nervous system senses that and sends another signal down and tells the heart, hey, let's kick it up to 100 beats a minute. The rate of contraction will then go up until it receives another order to reset again. The heart is the only muscle in our body with this ability. Well, that's it, folks. That's our quick little lesson on the muscular system, how the proteins interact to cause muscle contraction, muscle teamwork, and the 3 types of muscle tissues in the body. See you next time.